it's me, Dan, and in this video I'm going to talk about the different types of movements. Now, this is actually one of the first things I came up with in my SphereBodySystem, and if you've ever looked on YouTube videos about fitness, you'll see on a video that features long-distance runners, there will be people saying, oh, they can run really far, but they can't lift heavy weight, or and then on the on a deadlifting video, there will be comments saying, oh, they can lift a heavy weight, but they're not very agile, they can't run and do parkour or something like that. And then, and there's this whole cycle of people saying, oh, well, they're really good at one area, but not good at another. So it occurred to me, why not just master all of them? So in an effort to think about, just to wrap my head around mastering every type of fitness, I had to break down what each type of movement is. What are the different ways you can perform bodily movements? And that's the topic of this video. So I personally identified 8, and these are just the way I view them and from what I've observed and based on my experiences. You can feel free to have your own, and this is just to help give you sort of a way to think about your training or movements and just help give you a structure and provide a foundation. But I'm not proclaiming that these are the absolute definitions of everything that it means to move. So now let's get to the actual specific principles. The first one is probably most well understood in the fitness world, and that is what I call strength. And I would define strength as the ability to perform a movement with great resistance. So typically that would be moving something that is really heavy, doing a movement and there's something really heavy keeping you from doing the movement easily. In other words, resistance. So an example exercise would be doing a deadlift with a heavy weight. And so that's the first one, is strength. Then the second one is somewhat understood, but I'm not terribly convinced that everyone has necessarily fulfilled or followed through on this avenue, and that is speed. Basically how quickly the movement takes place, how quickly you move through space. So an example of an exercise involving speed would be sprinting. So that's the second one. The next one I'd like to talk about is explosiveness. Now, the way I define explosiveness is a maximum output in a minimal amount of time. So, like, maximum intensity for one instant. So an example of that might be jumping, okay? So you're putting all of your force into that one moment where you lift off. So that's the third one. Now, the next one I'll talk about is balance. And the way I think of it it's your ability to resist gravity. How well can you stay upright? How well can you keep from falling over? And one of my favorite balancing exercises is just to stand on one foot and lean in different directions and try to maintain your balance. So that's the fourth one. Now, next I will talk about dexterity. Now this one isn't really well understood or talked about much, and it's how well you can, or how precisely you can control your movements. How accurately are your movements happening based on what you want. So an example of a movement practice involving dexterity might be trying to move your arms around in a specific pattern, trying to make a perfect circle and finding how well you're able to do that, how accurately you're able to make this movement occur. So then next I'll talk about flexibility, and that is the range of movement, how far a movement can occur. And an example practice would be moving any body part in any direction as far as it can go, and that's the range of the flexibility for that body part's movement, for that movement. So the next one I'd like to talk about is fluidity. Now this one does not get much attention at all, and as I define it, it's the ease of flow throughout a movement, how smoothly a movement takes place. Say you're trying to, let's say, shoulder press, and you want to just move your arms up smoothly. Well, you don't have good fluidity if you're going and then your arms start to come off and move in different planes. A good example of fluid movements are, for instance, dancers. That's sort of the grace and beauty of a lot of movements, is the fluidity of it. So the final type of motion, as I think about it, is agility, and I define that as the ability to change directions quickly and effectively. So a good example of this would be, like I mentioned earlier, someone who does parkour. They're very quickly navigating obstacles and changing their momentum. So that's agility. So those are the 8 types of motion as I define them: strength, speed, explosiveness, balance, agility, fluidity, dexterity, flexibility. And so on a few final notes, one of the advantages of breaking all of these different aspects of fitness and these different types of movement down into individual principles is that you're able to hone in on each one specifically. You can do movement practices specifically tailored to each one depending on what your goals are. And as always, it's important to keep in mind that anytime you practice a principle, any of these ones that I laid out I would think of as principles, anytime you practice a principle, it carries over into other aspects of your life. So if you feel you need more speed, you can specifically work on doing speed-based movement practices, or any of the other 8 as you see fit. I just wanted to let you know that as soon as possible, I will be putting up a playlist for each different specific type of movement. And I'll have a playlist, and then every time I make a video featuring a new movement, or a new movement practice, a new exercise, I will upload it to that specific playlist. And when I have all of those, I'll have them available from this video. So that's just something to keep in mind and look forward to in the future. And so, as an activity to do, if you so desire, I would say try to find one movement practice, one exercise in each of these types of movement and practice it. Find one that you like in each one and have fun with it. And I will see you later. Bye.